Yes, welcome to the No State Project here on my YouTube channel, No State Project. Got a full hour of Anarchy Radio right here on my YouTube stream. I got a lot of stuff to get to, so let's get right to it. Remember, we've got Libertopia. Libertopia 2018 is coming up real soon. It's March 3rd through March 6th. May 3rd through May 6th. Wow. It's going to be... no tech issues yet, but yeah, I guess the issue would be I can't speak. So libertopia.org is where you can pick up your tickets if you have not signed up to do that today. I should definitely be speaking, and like I mentioned on the last broadcast, be bringing the Les Paul so that we could be doing some jamming. So libertopia.org and sign up, and I'll see you there on May 3rd through May 6th there in San Diego. Because what we do here on the big show is we want to make sure that everybody who is looking to defend themselves effectively in court, or just be able to defend himself or challenge people better and be able to get to the truth, better at the Socratic method, better BS detector. Definitely give us a call, 218-632-9399. That's what we're going to be getting into today. However, what I think is really interesting, because this doesn't happen very often, police officer in Minnesota, I guess it was in Minneapolis, and you know, and there's definitely some preferential treatment here. Even though the police officer is African, I think he's actually from Somalia, which is probably why it's one of these rare instances when a police officer is actually charged. This is when he shot an Australian woman last July. It took over 9 months to indict him, because they always take 9 months to indict people for shooting unarmed people. You and I do, you know, yeah, we will be indicted within a week. But here, it's just the fact that a police officer is charged with murder at all is really, I mean, that just doesn't happen very often. And I'll have this in the show notes where I'm reading from. A Minneapolis police officer who fatally shot an unarmed Australian woman last July was arrested on Tuesday. Yeah, why wasn't he arrested in July? He's on charges of third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter, the prosecutor said. Mohammed Noor turned himself in, and he got to turn himself in. How many people who aren't of the privileged class get to turn themselves in for murder? Yeah. He was arrested for the death of Justine Damon, 40, who had called 911 about a possible sexual assault near her house. Henneman County Attorney Mike Freeman said at a news conference announcing the charges. That's a thing. Do not call don't call the police unless you want to die. Do not call the police. So the prosecutor here is saying there's no evidence that the officer encountered a threat, appreciated a threat, investigated a threat, or confirmed a threat that justified his decision to use deadly force. Instead, the officer recklessly and intentionally fired his handgun. After Noor shot her, Damon put her hands on the gunshot wound on the left side of her abdomen and said, "I'm dying." They probably still try to handcuff her, which is what, if you go to YouTube, you can see plenty of videos where after they've shot somebody, they still moved. They're bleeding out. They're possibly dead. And the police officer is still considering them to be a threat to their safety. And so they're handcuffing dead people or people who are in the process of dying. Unarmed people who didn't pose a threat. Wow. Penalty for third-degree murder is up to 25 years in prison, and second-degree manslaughter carries a penalty of up to 10 years. He was put on paid leave. Paid leave. He shot somebody who was put on paid leave. Oh, but we don't have a hierarchy here, a privilege hierarchy. Paid leave. It's terrible. Hopefully, now this is the other thing, because like in the Castillo case, it's on video. Video. This one isn't. Video. Shooting. Being killed on video. And this cop was still acquitted. So it's great when they have these 1 in 100 shootings where they're actually charged like we would be charged. But to get a conviction, look, the Slager case in South Carolina, how many times are we going to bring this up? The guy is on video shooting a man running away and then planting evidence. Video of him, or pictures of him planting evidence. Still not convicted. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm not too sure that this is going to be any different than how so many of these things turn out. So, hey, we actually got it. Look at that. So we've got, you should be able to read that. So Lorenzo got a ticket thrown out in Florida this month. It was traffic, yeah. But hey, you're still making all the same challenges there. Territorial, personam, and subject matter jurisdiction are all the same, whether it's traffic or it's drugs or taxes. It's all the same thing, you know, all these code violations. So what you can see here is yeah, that's wow. That's impressive for a one-man show here doing it live. Not too shabby. So what you can see here, and yes, there's some awesome Photoshop there, some highlighting, and I was asked to redact the name out of there. I was asked to redact Lorenzo's full name and everything out of there. But the whole document will be posted after the show at markstevens.net. So what happened here is he filed a motion to dismiss, and he also filed the discovery request. So I think it was about 8 months went by after he did that, and he didn't hear anything back. So the judge didn't make an order on a decision on the motion to dismiss. There was nothing from the prosecution regarding the what do you call that? The discovery request or it was nothing. So then he contacted them a month or two ago. I guess it was closer to 2 months ago. Regarding the fact that his motion was pending and there had been no decision and nothing. There's been nothing on here. So what he got back was this order, which this cause came before the court on the defendant's correspondence treated as a motion to dismiss speedy trial, and the court having reviewed same and being otherwise duly advised on the premises, it is ordered and adjudged. The defendant's motion is granted, and infraction hearing has not been held within 180 days. And is not attributable to the defendant. That's why I always mention if you get a continuance, you waive speedy trial rights. So that's why you want to consider that if and when you are in that situation where you are going to ask for a continuance. And number two, okay, so the case is dismissed. It doesn't say whether it's with or without prejudice. I would imagine it is. It doesn't matter, but it's probably without prejudice. Not that it matters. So a big congratulations to Lorenzo for standing up. And like I mentioned, I do have a video with a little more detail. I know there's more than one explanation for why this was thrown out. Why did it take so long? I think it had to do with the fact that they could not present any evidence to support their claim, which was pointed out in the motion to dismiss. And it was just easier to run the clock. That's what the circumstantial evidence shows me that it's most likely. Not the only explanation, so I don't want to hear anyone saying that I'm not being reasonable regarding the evidence that we don't have direct evidence. We have circumstantial evidence. We have direct evidence that it was his pursuing getting the ticket thrown out for lack of speedy trial. That's direct evidence. But whether it had anything to do with the motion to dismiss and the discovery request and actually his defense, no, we only have circumstantial evidence of that. So I do appreciate that. We want to congratulate Lorenzo for standing up to them. And this is episode 55 of the commercial-free edition of the No State Project. And I want to get to your calls. We have another success story, though, but let me see what we got as far as calls. Let me, I wish it would I'd rather he just called the show. But some of the details from Mark in San Diego, that he was ordered to court and it was closed. He said he showed up, he went from Texas to San Diego because he was on the threat of a warrant. If you don't show up, they issue a warrant for your arrest and add more charges. So he says, I showed up at court only to find it closed due to bad weather. I had to fly to Texas and spend time and money. I guess he went from San Diego to Texas. I guess I'm misunderstanding that. So he spent time and money for nothing. Keep in mind, I was required to be there on the threat, duress, and coercion, so he showed up. I was trying to find out the name of the prosecutor the whole time, and the court wouldn't tell me. They would only tell me that I had to be there for a motion hearing. I had filed a motion to dismiss and Brady request, and when I wasted a trip, I filed a second motion to dismiss. No one ever looked at them, and I even called the court to ask if they could get the judge to look at them and try to save me a second trip down. Nothing happened. So I faxed a nice letter to the presiding judge. See, and he attached that letter. And this is the mightier than thou response he got back. So he called the mayor of the city and the secretary answered the phone. I told her that she should have the mayor call me, as he might be able to prevent a potential lawsuit against the city. I know I can't sue the judge, but I can sue the city. Yes, and you can obviously file a complaint against, or a claim for damages against their insurance. I was going to sue them from San Diego and subpoena the judge as a witness. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. I was going to serve him in his own court until I was forced to show, which would prevent him from hearing my case and cost the city even more money. Not necessarily. Just because you file a complaint against the judge doesn't, they've already ruled that that's not cause to recuse for the judge to disqualify himself, because they just say that everybody could just file a motion to recuse, file a lawsuit against the judge, and then you just get the judge to automatically recuse himself. So they don't typically allow that. So I knew that the city would automatically lose because of the letter the judge had written. The judge's letter had stated that I had changed the appearance date, which I did not, and I had shown up and no one was there. Whoa. How does the defendant change the appearance date? Only the clerk can do that. The judge can order it and the clerk has to enter it. The defendant doesn't get to choose that. The only time you can do something like that is you can make a suggestion on a motion or a petition for an order to show cause. And then you can put the date in there, and of course the judge can sign it and the clerk can issue. Yeah. But the judge is still responsible for doing that. Mark could not have changed the hearing date on his own. That's ridiculous. There had to be a record, which is why he can prove that he didn't do it. Okay, the mayor called me back. Wow, you really should call the show. The mayor called me back, and I told him the story of me being required to be there on a threat and duress and the court being closed. And I told him about the nice letter I wrote the judge and read the threatening letter I got back and how I was going to file suit against them when he was back in San Diego. I told him that I needed an apology letter and the case dismissed for it to go away. He said he would get back to me after checking into it. He called back the next morning and said that he talked to the judge and the prosecution and that the case was being dismissed and I would be getting an apology letter. What a scam. I just thought you might want to share this on the show. Wow. Kind of sucks that you said it would go away with an apology letter, because now you can't file a claim against their insurance. But hey, at least they threw it out, so that's some nice damage control. So those are two success stories. I don't have the documentation from the court. I don't know if Mark has that yet, but once we get that, I will post that at markstevens.net. So hey, good on you, Mark. Really appreciate that. And maybe we'll see you again at the Libertopia 2008 there in San Diego, which is where I actually met Mark the first time. So, all right, big congratulations there. All right, so far so good. I think we're going to go to the phones over here. So, again, if you have a ticket or a complaint against you or a tax assessment, you want to learn how to effectively defend yourself, definitely call 218-632-9399, 218-632-9399, or if you want to dissent, if there's something that I'm broadcasting or I'm putting out on the show that you believe is wrong, my facts are wrong, my logic is off, and I'm just what is it? I am completely unhinged. If you got proof of that, call 218-632-9399. with the passcode being 2020, and we'll get you up on the big broadcast. So we have a new caller. We have area code 785. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up? My name's from Kansas.
I missed your name. What was that again?
Chris.
Chris from Kansas. What can we do for you today?
Hey, man. So I got a parking ticket a few weeks back. And on the parking ticket itself, on the back, it said I could appeal within 5 days of getting a ticket or pay $8. So I went to the location. I actually called the location, and I was asking them. I said, "Hey, is this a court of record that I need to go to, or where am I going?" I found out it's in the same place where you pay the city water bill. So I went there, and there's a little counter upstairs, and I said, "Hey, here's this ticket that was on my car, and on the back here says that I can appeal it within 5 days, and today's the 5th day, so whatever appeal means, that's what I want to do." And the gal at the counter pulled out a sheet of paper. Let me grab that real quick. It's a form that they have that's called an administrative hearing request in person. And the first line on this thing says, "I hereby request an administrative hearing regarding parking ticket number," and then it's a blank. So I asked her, I said, "Does the parking meter person who issues the tickets, does that person have any evidence proving that your parking code applies to me just based on my physical location?" That confused the crap out of her. And I ended up having to talk to a supervisor. Yeah, it really did.
So what kind of response did you get besides stuttering and stammering? She pulled out the city code, and I actually have a copy of that. I was scanning it to send it over to you. She pulled out the city code, and I said, "Okay, that's great. I know you have a code there, but is there any evidence from the parking person that would prove that this code applies to me just because I was on that block?" And she actually said that everyone who parks on that street, this code applies to. And I said, "Do you have any evidence of that?" Well, and I didn't really get a response other than stuttering and stammering and trying to get out of it. Oh,
right?
Yeah. I mean, what evidence can they give you? Other than their say so, there isn't any evidence, and their say so. Hate to shout, burst some bubbles for the critics out there. Just saying something is true doesn't make it true. So she put you. She went and got a supervisor.
Yeah, she got a supervisor, and I said, I understand that you have this form. If I'm not paying the ticket, then the other option is to appeal the ticket. But is this a court of record or a court of limited record? And both of them, the supervisor and the little gal, secretary person, said, "This isn't a court." And I said, "Okay, well, I called before I came up here, and I was told that a judge would be overseeing the hearing. So if this isn't a court, how is there a judge?" And the supervisor said, "Well, it's an administrative hearing officer." I said, "Okay." So it is the parking. The only reason I'm even here is to see if the parking meter officer, whatever you call them, has any evidence that the code applies to me just because my car was there. That's all I'm doing. And she said, "Well, you can fill out the administrative hearing request in person form, or you can pay the ticket. And if you don't pay the ticket, it's going to double. That's the fee schedule on the back." And I said, "Okay, so I'm being threatened with financial harm if I don't pay it." Okay, I got that. I understand that. Now, the first line on this administrative hearing request says, "I hereby request an administrative hearing regarding parking ticket number," whatever it was. And I said, "I'm not requesting anything. In fact, I'm not even here voluntarily. I'm here under threat of financial harm if I don't participate." That's it. So if I request something, that would insinuate that, I'm voluntarily asking for an administrative hearing. I'm not. So I need to cross this out. And I said, "You cannot cross that out. We will not accept it because that is a legal document." And I said, "Well, you just told me this is not a court."
Well, it doesn't have to be a court to be a legal document, but I want to get to, you know, as far as if this happens to you again or happens to somebody else, we see it very common. We see that it's very common, Chris, for them to just give you two options, and I don't think that that's true, because if you were to sue, let's say, the hearing officer or a judge, the judge is not going to just accept the two options. The judge is going to go for door number 3. And that is where, even whether it's in a court or not, does the agency have evidence to support their claim that there's jurisdiction to issue the ticket in the first place? That, you know, so I see it more as, yes, you're right, that you're not voluntarily asking for a hearing. Well, I think what's important there is that they're lying and not letting you know about the other options. You know, just because it's not in court, that's administrative hearing, doesn't mean that there isn't the also door number 3 or option number 3 to file a motion to dismiss based on the lack of agency's evidence to prove their assertion that there was jurisdiction to issue the ticket in the first place. You know, so that's one thing we want to bring up. So, well, what about option number 3? Can I just find? Do you have any evidence to prove that you have jurisdiction to issue the ticket in the first place to then require me to pay or ask for a hearing? Let's start there. Remember, our threshold issue is always jurisdiction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So whether or not, whether you pay or you appeal is not relevant yet until they've established that the agency itself, whoever wrote the ticket, has evidence that the agency has jurisdiction to require you to take one of the two options that they're telling you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, if the agency doesn't have jurisdiction to require you to pay or appeal, there's no point in proceeding yet. I mean, and I would even go so far as say, look, I'll give you the $8 right now. And with being $8, you could just put $8 or 10, put a 10 on the table. I will pay this right now if, in fact, this agency, anybody here, can produce any evidence that would prove that just because I'm physically in Kansas, your constitutional laws apply to me, and that there's jurisdiction to write the ticket in the first place.
Yeah, they whipped out. I even have it over on my scanner right now. They whipped out the city code or whatever it's called, whatever they call it. It says that it's blocked. You can't park for more than 2 hours a day. But I said that is not evidence of jurisdiction. That's just that's what you're saying applies to me, but I need the evidence that proves that it applies to me. He said, well, you're going to have to talk to the administrative hearing officer about that. But what I did do, Mark, was I filled this stupid form out, and on the bottom it has a space for other, and I literally wrote seeking facts on the element of jurisdiction and also clarification to this matter. Then on the back I said, also, it is not a voluntary request that I am making. I am either forced to pay money or not cross out the request declaration at the beginning of this form. Then they have a signature line, and it was like getting close to their closing time. So I actually had a security guard come up and say, you're making everyone nervous. You need to hurry up and fill that out. And I was like, why am I making people nervous when I'm just asking questions? I'm not doing anything. But I was able to cross out the signature and put autograph next to my name, and she didn't see that, but she scanned it.
Whoa, Chris, just calm down. Yeah. Calm down. You're really starting to stress me out here. I'm a little concerned for my safety. Just relax, sir.
I know. I got it all on audio recording. I have half of it recorded on video. It was kind of interesting, but they wanted to schedule this hearing for like the week after, right?
Okay, that's not.
But I said, hey, I need time. I have a life to live. I need time. So I'd like to see if we could schedule this in April. And that security guard was like kind of rushing the secretary as well. And he said, can you just hurry up and get them scheduled for April? And she goes, well, typically we don't do them that far out. We only have 2 hearings a month. And he said, well, we're closing. Well, he needs to get out of here. You guys need to hurry up and leave. And she said, well, maybe I would have to ask. And I said, well, look, if you're considering April, can we just bump it over to May so I have plenty of time to come up with a motion to dismiss and every other thing that I need to do in the meantime? She said, well, I'd need to call somebody about that. I'm really not sure. I said, okay, well, if you need to call somebody and this guy's trying to get us out of here, let's just go ahead and set it for like April 18th or whatever it is on your calendar, because she had the calendar on her. And she said, the security guard was like, are you going to set this or not? And she said, okay, I'll set it for April 18th. And you know, I've even got the letter confirming that it's set for April 18th.
Okay, plenty of time.
Yeah, plenty of time. What's interesting, too, I want to throw this in there real quick, too. They sent me another letter that actually says parking citations increase in accordance to the provisions of the following fine schedule. So instead of $8 now, they're wanting me to pay $15. And then after 30 days, it's $30. And after 60 days, it's $60. So they're like they set the hearing, right?
Yeah.
In which
I
had 5 days to go and appeal it, is what they said.
Right.
But then now they're like saying, oh, now you owe us more.
These people, I guess they're doing that in an effort to get you not to follow through and have that hearing. What I'm looking at here, though, which I think could maybe help improve the situation if you're in that again, I think it's always that's why I use the Constitution. So you're saying that your jurisdiction is based on whether I am physically in Kansas. That I'm physically in Kansas, then your Constitution laws apply and you have jurisdiction. And get that out of the way. So this way, when they bring out the city code, you can acknowledge that, yeah, I understand you have a city code. Is it really your position, given what I'm asking you, though? Is it really your position that your city code is evidence proving your Constitution applies to me? And then, you know, wait for them to stutter and stammer and give you a response. Because there's no way they're going to be able to explain to you how the code is proof that the Constitution applies. And we all know that the code, the source of the code for a city, municipal corporations, is in the Constitution. So it all hinges on whether the Constitution is applicable. If there's no evidence the Constitution is applicable, there's no evidence the state code is applicable, or the city code or a town code. So that's what I would do next time when they bring out that code. Ask them that question. First, your leading question is, so your position is the code is evidence proving your Constitution applies, right? You've heard me talk about that, right? I know who you are now. I wish you would have mentioned it.
Yeah.
I didn't see Skype, so so it took me until I looked at the Skype. I was like, I know Chris.
Yeah, you do.
You're a big supporter of the show, and I don't get a chance too often to acknowledge that on the show.
Yeah, man. I'm always floating around somewhere. I just haven't been as active lately. But yeah, man, I'm a huge supporter, dude.
Yeah, and it is appreciated. Between you and, well, we have a number of people, that Nelson and Eyal of No Say Project Israel, and I'm drawing a blank right now, and I really apologize about that to everyone who does support the show, but it is appreciated. So for April 18th, you're going, before that, though, you will be filing the motion to dismiss, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Well,
you've got an excellent template, and it just, again, everyone listening, you guys can't just take the template and send it in. You've got to customize it to your situation and your location. So yeah, Mark, that's what I'm going to be doing. And I guess, would you recommend me just going there and handing that to the gal at the counter and getting a stamped confirmation or something like that?
You can do that. I prefer to mail it. These, you know, those places make my skin crawl. So you can mail it, but if you have no problem, you can always just, you know, you could put a self-addressed stamped envelope in there for your copy to be date stamped that you got it. You know, since you pointed it out, it is something that's happened, you know, a couple of times in the last year where somebody didn't follow the directions, and you know, I think it was on the last show. They sent the motion in limine in, but it couldn't possibly have been edited because they filed it with the motion to dismiss and the discovery request. So it is just, you do have to do a little bit of editing for the initial documents, and you have to do a bit more editing if you have a motion to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct, because you have to use the prosecutor's name. You have to give the dates that you sent everything and that they didn't respond, or if they did respond, you have to put in their BS response. So that does need to be in there. But the major parts, as far as the legal issues, those are going to be the same. You just have to put in, to be simple, your own statement of facts to support your legal claims.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I guess I'm curious on this, Mark. You know, if this was a court, I'd be a little bit more up to speed, but this is a bit weird having an administrative hearing in a non-court. So there is no prosecutor on this issue, and
probably not.
So, I mean, you've helped some other people, you know, when they're having administrative hearings. What's your experience with helping people in administrative hearings, and how are they different than, you know, having like a court matter?
Well, they will make the initial claim. Well, this is kind of a standard one. They'll say that the technical rules of evidence don't apply. And that's the same as if, like, you're in Arizona, if you have a civil traffic ticket or an infraction in California, for example, where they consider it very minor. There's no chance of jail, and it's a very small fine, like in a parking ticket. And I always count, like, well, the basic principles of fairness and due process apply. Well, yeah. Well, then, okay. So would it be, you know, so depending on what they're trying to do, so, well, would it be fair to accept hearsay? Do I get to do that all? And so you have to put in those terms, which you probably have to do with the rules of evidence anyway. So depending on what's happening. The other thing is, they tend to be, if there's no record and you're not allowed to record it, they may tend, and you want to get in advance and let them know that you want it recorded in case it has to be appealed. When we've done things like in New Hampshire with our friend Bill, another big supporter of the show. So Bill and Dan, yeah, I apologize for my earlier brain fart. They will say certain things that they typically won't say if they know a record is being made that you're going to be able to, you know, get a copy of. So they set up there, for example, that Maria Del Terrio, she said, there's no evidence. And she said, to paraphrase, that if they had to prove territorial and personal jurisdiction for everybody, they wouldn't be able to prosecute anybody. Well, it's called fairness, you knucklehead. So that's another thing you got to keep in mind. So I think to counter that, let them know in advance that you want to record it and you will be bringing a witness. They're not going to be speaking, but they're going to witness what's happening in case it does have to be appealed. I would also tell them, put in a request to have the parking ticket attendant, or, you know, have them present so that you can question them.
Okay.
That might be enough. Yeah, that might be enough for the parking attendant to say, I'm not coming in. To me, it's worth a shot. It's only a one-page request that you have to write. So, look, I want the agent there who did this because I want to question him.
Okay. And then you know, just as far as like formatting and document editors and things like that, it's not a case, but, you know, just, am I drafting something really just like that and put in like request and then just a couple of sentences of what I'm requesting it and then just submit it? Okay.
Yeah, all I would do is put in the captions. I would highlight and delete where it says motion to dismiss, and I would just put request for witnesses or agents' attendance at hearing on April 18th. And then in the body of it, I'd keep it really short. So-and-so wrote the ticket that is the subject of the hearing. I would like to be able to question him regarding the veracity of that ticket and the validity of that ticket. Keep it really short like that.
Awesome, dude.
All you got to do.
Yeah.
And keep us in the loop.
Man.
Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, man, for sure. I'm gonna send you the documents that I have now, but yeah, I'll keep you guys in the loop.
Excellent.
But yeah, man, thanks for the help and the assist, and I'll let you get to the next caller, man.
Hey, not a problem. I appreciate all the support of the show, and good luck. I hope the next time I hear from you, it's good news.
Thanks, man. I'll try.
Right. Yeah. Chris in Kansas. Again, you know, just like with Dan and Bill, appreciate the support of the show. Don't know if I'm going to do this as a call of shame. I've been really bad at that. I have two other ones I still have to edit and get online. But without too many, I was able to get another hold with the Franchise Tax Board situation yesterday. And don't believe them. Remember, I always say that just assume that every single thing that they're saying is a lie and challenge them on it. You know, the worst that's going to happen is that they verify that they're telling the truth, which is great. So, but if you don't do that, they can lie and they can get away with it. So, in this particular situation, what happened was the Franchise Tax Board, they screwed up. They acknowledged that, now when you get a notice of proposed assessment, all collection action is stayed if you request a protest hearing. And yes, protest hearing is in quotes. And they'll even tell you it's a hearing in name only. It is not a hearing in any legal sense of the word. Okay? It is not evidentiary, period. You may be able to get an evidentiary hearing if you have to appeal that. It is not evidentiary. So anyway, we were on the phone yesterday, and they screwed up because they acknowledged that they got their request for the protest hearing in plenty of time, didn't process it. And so they acknowledge that they screwed up and that they're going to send it for a protest hearing. Well, of course, we don't want that being done without a stay of proceedings, which you're supposed to get automatically, but they weren't going to give it to her, or to her, the client I'm working with. So he tries to lie his way out of it because he says it's not going to escalate. I say, but it already has escalated. We're already at a final notice of intent to lien or levy. It already has because you guys messed up. I said, we need a stay of proceedings. I don't care if it's 60 days or 90 days. We need a stay of proceedings because this can and will escalate. Your computer will continue escalating this. I'm not saying there's a human being saying escalate, but the computer is on a particular program and it is set to escalate. So he fought me on it. He tried to make an excuse, and he lies to me, saying, well, I see here that there's already been a stay, and I can't do that again. I can't. Oh, come on. I've done it where we've had 4, 5, or more 60-day stays, or even 90-day stays. Okay, they're lying to you. They just don't want to do it. Kind of acknowledges that they made a mistake. So it's one thing to admit to you on the phone that they screwed up. It's another thing altogether to put another stay and send it to you in writing. Now you know they screwed up. Why would they have to give you a stay otherwise? Because if you timely filed your protest, you don't need a formal stay. So, the next thing he did, he didn't want to give it to us in writing. I said, look, we don't want to be, look, we need it in writing. We need more just your say-so on the phone. He doesn't want to give, well, we don't usually do that with phone call. About phone call, just put the thing, look, you got to stay, just put it in writing. So this way, if it escalates, we have it in writing that you guys messed up again. And you see, that is the rub. They don't like admitting that they're wrong, and they don't want evidence of that. They don't want any proof because who cares if nobody cares if an agent tells you that on the phone. Oh, well, agent so-and-so told me. Yeah, what's the agent's last name? So you get nothing. If you don't have it in writing, abafunkel, it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. All right. We are not doing well on calls, but he's been on the show before. Let's see what he's got for me today. From Gilbert, James, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for taking me on, Mark.
What do you got for us today, my friend?
Well, thanks for saying so. I should like to believe you are mine, and I only call to respectfully disagree with you. I got a handicap parking ticket the other day, and I should like your help out of it. I'm just kidding. $8 is what you guys talked about. $8, and I bet he was illegally parked. And I'm not an anarchist. I respect you, but I don't know how Chris is battling with the evil statist over $8 is going to further the cause of liberty, let alone your, well, forgive me respectfully, pipe dream, world dream of a stateless society, which I don't see happening in our lifetimes. I should like to see our government super downsized. I believe that if we unite together and convince our fellow citizens that government's not the answer but the problem, we might achieve a small government society one of these days.
Well, it's a matter of we have to get to a smaller one before we have none. But let's address what your comment about Chris. What does it do? Well, I could put myself in the same boat here. Well, what the hell has Mark Stevens done? This, what?
I didn't say that.
No, I know. I'm not okay. I didn't say you did. I'm just saying I put myself in the same category as Chris. So, like, what is doing a parking ticket going to do? Well, this is what I believe it does, and I've seen the evidence of this. Other people will see that he stood up to them and was able to defeat them, or at least show that what they're doing is dishonest and not fair. And so that helps other people take the step of not just learning about it, but actually challenging them themselves, the government types. And it may also increase, those people may then challenge something bigger than a parking ticket. Because like I mentioned before, the territorial, personal, and subject matter jurisdiction all hinges on the exact same claim as a more serious charge. So if you go and you can defend yourself in a parking ticket, then you're better suited and better trained and able to then, defend yourself against something that's more serious. So that's an immediate effect that I see of what Chris is doing and helping other people be able to make the challenge themselves.
Okay, if you believe it changes hearts and minds, defeating the state on an $8 parking ticket, which I believe he probably earned, like everybody else in the neighborhood, it knows that where he parks would be illegal for them to park there, and he got nabbed for it. And I don't believe that, respectfully, that changes anybody's hearts and minds in battling that ticket. But I was just joking. I didn't want to talk 20 minutes about an $8 parking ticket, but you did sufficiently answer my question, and I disagree with you as best as I can in the way that I do.
Okay, but wait, James. Wait, James, 1 second. Are you saying that it's not accurate?
I do. I should like you to be my friend. I'd like you to call me Witt.
Oh, you got it. So, do you disagree?
Respect, by the way.
Hey, I got no problem with that. So you don't believe me when I say that other people have in the past when they've heard people like Chris. So you don't believe that other people. Well, don't talk over.
Tickets, with regards to parking tickets, no. With regards to confronting real evil, like murdering cops and making sure that they go to jail forever. See, what you and Chris were talking about for 20 minutes, you're talking about fighting a man about something that's insignificant and cause nobody any harm. What fascinates me about right-wing progressives and left-wing progressives is you don't fight real evil, you fight that which isn't evil. I'm concerned with government actors that are evil and cause harm. Some dork making $10 an hour for the state putting an $8 ticket on a guy's windshield is not doing anybody any harm or committing any evil acts towards our fellow human beings. And no, you're not winning on any converts. When Chris gets that freaking ticket thrown out, if he does, I would have suggested him pay it because his license is going to get suspended. And when he gets pulled over for a suspended license, I should know, ignoring having not paid fines, you go to jail. and it completely sucks.
Yeah, and that's true.
A day off a few summers ago, completely ruined because of that. It was my own GD fault.
Well, okay.
I'm going to suggest to Chris, I'm more than down with him being anti-government, but this is not the way to fight the bad actors in government. And so can I get to the point of why I really called?
Yeah, but you're making. We've got 10 minutes left. I'd like to address what you just said. So just hold tight for just a second, Witt. I have had people, a lot of people who have been inspired, even when people get trounced in a train wreck in court. The fact that a regular person was able to go in and make the challenges, just going in and making the challenge. That's why I did the parking ticket study, so that there was little or no risk, so that you can learn how to just defend yourself and speak for yourself and make these challenges. Because we have to baby step with a lot of people, most people, because they're so conditioned. If you can't defend and challenge someone in a parking ticket when there's no risk of going to jail, or pretty much none, then how in the world are you going to challenge a monstrous police state like we and with another charge? I just see as a way of educating, getting people to cross the line from just being a spectator to actually being a participant. And so some people need, and so I would venture to say, Witt, that the majority of people are going to have to baby step it. And it's probably best that they learn when there's little risk, as opposed to trying to go and tangle with the beast. And because look, I do advocate a lot more than just parking tickets, but there's a grade, and there's levels of participation that people are willing to get into, and what's unfortunate is that most people, and yes, even most of the people that listen to this show, just listen. They're not participants. And I'm trying to change that, but that doesn't mean that a lot of people haven't been inspired and have started challenging, and not only that, but being activists and do things such as non-compliance and let's say not paying taxes.
I'm all for civil disobedience, Mark, against that which is evil. A parking ticket, we can debate that all day. I'm going to not even know where he lives or where he got it. I'm going to support whoever gave him the ticket, because I'm betting that nobody else parked where he did because they knew they were going to get a ticket because it wasn't their spot to be had. And that's why I joked about the handicap spot. There is nowhere on earth you can prove to me that I don't have any right to park in a handicap spot if I follow your logic respectfully. But I wouldn't blame the state for putting a boot on my tire and making me pay the ticket before I get to pull out my car out of a handicap spot. It is what it is. The world exists the way it is when we were born into it. And if you want to change it for the better, that's great. I'm just saying respectfully to Chris, just like I would supporting the state in his having gotten a ticket to begin with. The person that gave him the ticket isn't a monster. I am concerned about state actors that are monsters. Okay. And I have an entirely different way of getting rid of those people than what you would do. And that's why I've already alluded to it.
What is it?
Power. And some people should die. That's unconscious knowledge, like monsters. I believe in the death penalty. I support wars of aggression against monsters and evildoers, because there's so much more I want to talk to you about your. I don't know why you didn't respond to my comment about your war is a racket. That episode where you said that you referred to what I believe as to be immoral. Whereas I asked you a question about. Leave aside the numbers are completely blown up. That 200,000 people were born were exterminated in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those are the enemy's numbers, by the way. The Japanese government's numbers, not the United States government's numbers. Just as if you were to take the Chinese numbers of what happened in the rape of Nanking, like I said on the last time we talked, way more people were chopped to death in Nanking in a period of a month than died in the 2 days of atomic weaponry, the only 2 times the United States of America has used atomic weapons. So I digress. What I wanted to talk to you about was what you started the episode off with, about cops having committed murder. No person that I know of, no man of goodwill that I know on earth supports a cop murdering anybody. But what left-wing progressives do with guns is they make a big explosion out of something that happened at a school. I believe there's almost 0% chance if I sent my kid to school today that he would get blown away by somebody that walked into school with an AK-47. I consider it so unlikely.
Well, that's because they usually use
struck by lightning.
But they don't usually use an AK-47. They use an AR-15 or an M16. But I actually have another call, and I'd like to get to, but I need you to get to the point.
Real quickly, my point is that left-wing progressives that are anti-gun make a big deal out of people being murdered by gun, and especially it's actually like they like when they hear that a school shooting happened because they can make a big deal
that's
about
not true. Come on, that's Fox News talking there. Come on.
I don't ever watch Fox News.
But that's the way they do. To say that that all leftists or all libtards or all liberals rejoice in school shootings because they can push a liberal agenda. I mean, come on. That might be true for those in government who are trying to get something passed, but it's not true for the average person. So I do need you to get to the point, though.
Right. The point is, what right-wing progressives like yourself that are
I'm not a right-winger, though, Witt. I'm an anarchist.
I'm labeling you that. Whether or not you call that yourself that or not is neither here nor there. That's what I'm labeling you.
But you're inaccurate.
No disrespect.
It is, but okay. You're being inaccurate. Okay.
You're an anarchist. I call you a right-wing progressive. You're an anarchist.
That's not the same thing.
As the right-wing I know they're not. They're not in the way you define them. I will go on and on about how I define it if I had the chance to talk to you, on or off the air.
Without the label, make the point.
Out of the thousand people that are killed by cops every year, how many out of 1,000 do you think were actually murdered by a cop? And how many times, out of the percentage-wise, do you think a cop is firing his weapon at a fellow human being because they're a mortal threat to that cop? So, how many people do you think? How many cops commit murder out of 1,000 discharges of weapons into citizens of this great land of ours every year?
I don't know. I don't know the percentage. I just know whatever it is too high. What?
I'm going to say one. I agree with you. Murder is wrong. Every time a cop commits murder, it's wrong. But I'm going to say it happens about once a week in a country of 350 million people where there's hundreds of millions of guns and millions of cops. Once a week, a cop commits murder in our country with a weapon, and which means 50 out of 1,000 are murderers. The other 950 are not. But you make a special emphasis of the times when cops do commit murder, and I'm not for it either, and neither are you. But you emphasize it, just like some school that's anti-NRA will make a big deal out of a random act of violence and say that nobody should have a gun, and that all gun toters are liable of being murderers, which they're not.
Well, you're being wildly inaccurate
because you think a second time.
No, you're being pretty inaccurate because not that I'm a lefty or a libtard or a liberal or a Democrat. Let me just speak though. I don't want you, or you're not the only part of the audience. The people who are calling for gun control, I don't hear any of them saying that all guns should be banned. What they're saying is certain types should not be as readily available. So it's Fox News type.
That's not necessarily true.
Yeah, look,
that's not necessarily true.
It is. It's not. It's a gross generalization to say that all people who are outraged at gun violence want all guns to be. No, they want certain types. That's why there's a whole thing about assault rifles. Okay. But let me address. Let me just address another issue here before we're completely out of time. I focus on the really bad cops for a reason, because it is the system that not only encourages it or allows it, it's the system that is criminal that covers it up. There's no way in the world that I could shoot an unarmed woman and not be arrested for 8 months. Okay, that is because this cop is part of a different he's part of a different, level. Okay, he is one of the king's men. You or I shoot an unarmed woman, you will not wait 8 months to be arrested. You will be arrested that day. So it is part of a system that is criminal from top to bottom. That doesn't mean every single one is going out and killing people, but it's a criminal organization because they're just men and women forcing us to pay them. And another thing is the way they cover it up. It is so rare because you put it in terms that no one supports cop murder. That's looking at it, Witt, I think completely wrong. Because no one is going to say, well, it's okay for cops to murder. Where the argument is, where the disagreement is whether the cop has actually murdered somebody when they did kill them. So there's no dispute as to whether they killed them. The dispute is whether the cop had a legitimate self-defense position and to do that. Did he really fear for his life? So those are some of the reasons why I focus so much, like at the beginning of the show, of this bad cop, because they cover it up. They allow them and they enable them to get away with it. They put them on paid leave. Who in the world? Do you at least agree that the man should have been arrested the day of the shooting?
He should have been arrested the second his fellow cops inferred that he has committed murder. And I'm against a system failure defending a cop that commits murder in the line of duty. And everybody that did anything to delay his incarceration should be fired or charged as accessories after the fact. Again, I said no man of goodwill. I'm referring to all men of goodwill are against cops committing murder. And I want to emphasize the point. Out of 1,000 people murdered every year by a cop, it's about 50. It's about once a week in the United States of America. The other 950 times, it either happens by accident, and 75% of that time easily can be shown they're doing it for good reason, defend themselves.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Wait. I have to let you go on this, but could you imagine another profession that, as a regular percentage of the job, is murdering people? Even 50 a year. Imagine doctors that were murdering. It's agreed they're murdering people. Imagine nurses or, any other profession. Imagine a cook murdering cooks. Just nationwide, we've got 4 million cooks in the United States, and 1 out of 5,000 or is committing murder. I mean, come on. So I don't think the argument is valid when you've got cops, a profession that way above the national average as a profession is murdering people, and then to have that covered up. So I do appreciate the time. I do appreciate the call, but I do want to get one last caller in. So thanks a lot, Witt in Gilbert. I get the thing with percentages and whatnot, and it's not any, doesn't hold any water whatsoever to say, well, police is such a dangerous profession. No, it's not even in the top 10. A damn bartender is more likely to die than a cop. So being a bartender is far more dangerous than being a cop. So police officer is not nearly as dangerous a job. It doesn't even make the top 10. So, but the idea that you've got a certain percentage of a profession engaged in murder above that we point out these cops because it's the system that allows them, that gives them a gun and says, go out and dominate other people. And you have no personal responsibility whatsoever 99% of the time. And if you shoot one of them, just like the cops in Baltimore, just plant a toy gun. Hey, they thought he had a gun. So you add to those, when you look at the percentage where they say it's justified, how many times were they like cops in Baltimore and other places like Slager in South Carolina? How many times in those justified shootings did the cops plant evidence to cover it up? And it just wasn't a cell phone available to see that. It's like it was being reported lately that cops in New York just can't stop lying. Tesla lying is in the news again. How many times do we have to see these cops actually, and look, for every, I would say, I'm spitballing here, for every 1,000 incidences, 3, 4, maybe 5 are actually in the news and actually have a prosecution. How many of those have those cops planted evidence to make it look like it was justified? How many times have cops been caught lying on the stand about the threat? This is why body cams go missing. The footage goes missing so often. Like what, okay? Which I don't think it was policy back in Minneapolis last year for them to have the body cams on all the time or even have body cams. But it's a policy now. So Yeah, am I biased? You're based because the evidence tells me that cops lie all the time and that cops plant evidence. So I am very suspect unless there's video evidence of a police officer shooting somebody, unless there's video evidence to show it wasn't murder, I'm going to assume that they planted evidence and they're lying and they closed ranks behind the guy and they're all lying. Just look at what happened in Baltimore as the most recent example. They plant evidence on us. It's the old Dave Chappelle, break into the wrong guy's house, shoot the owner. He just happened, he's black. Well, sprinkle some crack. Let's get out of here, Bert. Yeah, so I'm very suspect of these justified. Give me a break. It's like this. All right, I'm completely out of time here. I will be live on the Saturday broadcast. So we'll be streaming the whole 3-hour broadcast again right here on my YouTube channel, No State Project, the LRN stream. I appreciate everyone's calls today. Even if you've got a parking ticket, you're still standing up for yourself. And to me, that takes for the average person, that takes guts. And to actually challenge the system itself, you're not just challenging a parking ticket, you're challenging the nature of the system itself. Yeah, it doesn't amount to anything in the long run in the big scheme of things, but in individual lives, it certainly has, and I can testify to that. Again, my name is Mark Stevens. This has been episode 55 of the No State Project, live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona for March 21st, 2018. Till next time, salud.